Are you concerned about real estate prices? Are you thinking about whether or not you should sell or whether or not you should hold on? Well, I don't have a crystal ball, but when I use demographics, I get a much better idea of how things are looking. What do I mean by that? Well, think about it like this. I'm 46 years old. When I was born, the population of Ontario was about 8 million people. Here in 2022, the population is now approaching 15 million people. And by the year 2050, we're now projecting a population of 22 million people living in this province. Now, why is that? Well, strangely, that's because we've got over 30% of our population is now either in retirement or is approaching retirement. And while these people aren't going to be working anymore, they are very, very healthy. And so they're going to be living for the next 20 to 30 years as senior citizens here in our province. When I couple that with the fact that our birth rate is only 1.4 children per woman, you get a much clearer picture that we just don't have nearly enough people to fill all the vacant job positions that are currently existing in our economy. And if we're going to stay as a prosperous nation, what do we got to do? We have to invite a lot more people to come and live here. As a matter of fact, the government of Canada is now trying to attract over 500,000 people to move to Canada every single year and for the next 5 years minimum. Now, take a guess where you think those people are going to be moving to. You think they're heading to Flin Flon or Moose Jaw? No, my guess is the vast majority of them are moving right here to Southern Ontario. As a matter of fact, the Waterloo region alone is projecting an additional 270,000 people to move here by the year 2050. That's the equivalent of the entire population of Kitchener and Waterloo combined, all still to come. So, what does that mean for real estate? Well, when you have a population that was once 8 million and it's going to go to 22 million people, you need to build a lot more houses for people to live in. We're hearing a lot of urban planners and politicians and architects, and they're all saying we have to build more large multi-unit buildings, and people are going to have to get used to living in more multi-units, even though none of them do, by the way. No matter what, as far as I'm concerned, nobody really wants to live in a condo. Everyone is going to aspire to live in a single detached home. So while interest rates have risen recently due to the influx of cash, and we're trying to get inflation in control, this has had a short-term impact on real estate. Overall, I can only see the value of real estate growing year over year in the years to come. And speaking of interest rates, the Bank of Canada keeps trying to raise them in an effort to curb inflation. You see, we had a real large influx of cash during COVID-19, and so people had more and more money to spend on the same small amount of goods and services that we always had. When you couple that now with the fact that we've got all these vacant job positions, though, what's happening is employers are having to offer more and more money to people. In fact, I saw an ad just yesterday for a snow shoveler was paying 21 bucks an hour. If a snow shoveler is getting 21 bucks an hour, how much money do you think you deserve? Well, if you deserve more, then you're going to have more money and they're going to have more money and everybody's going to be competing for the same small pool of goods and services like housing, like food, like transportation. They got more money to do so, but there's still no more supply available. This is going to make it really hard for us to get interest rates down, in my opinion. What that means, though, is for the savers out there, bank accounts and GICs will continue to look attractive. For the debt holders out there, this could mean some more challenges and some more difficulty ahead. So what about a recession? People keep talking about a recession. Well, again, I don't have a crystal ball, but what I see is we might have some sort of a correction in the near term as people sort out their mortgages and these new high interest rates. However, over the long term, I just can't see how we're going to have a prolonged recession with full employment. If everybody's working, they've got money to spend. And if people have money to spend, the economy continues to grow. So how do we have a recession in that environment? No one's been able to explain that to me in a way that makes sense at all. Here's what I am worried about. I'm worried about the next generation of young Canadians that's being shut out of the housing market. And I'm worried about all these new immigrants that aren't going to be able to afford a home. How are they going to react when they get the good grades, they've got the degrees, they work hard and have the good jobs, and they're still shut out of the housing market. They still don't get a piece of the Canadian dream. How do they react? Do they revolt? Do they move away? I have no idea. I don't know the answers. But we're now seeing for the first time in history, financial writers like guys like Rob Carrick from the Globe and Mail are talking about, hey, if you really want to do well financially, you should move away from Toronto. When that starts to happen, we've got serious problems that we're not really addressing yet. I personally am concerned about the supply of housing a lot more than most people seem to be. This is what I'm seeing. I hope you find this helpful. Any questions, just leave them in the comments section. Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.